drink and some folks smoke, some folks love and some folks don't. Some folks laugh and some folks frown, some folks care that'll gun you down. Goodbye, John. Goodbye, John. 6 white horses come to take you home.
In America's country music story, some names become monuments. So big, they cast shadows across everyone who shares them. Tommy Cash spent his life inside one of those shadows. But his story isn't just a footnote. It's a quieter, steadier journey, rooted in a struggling farm community, shaped by family grief, and guided by an instinct for music that didn't need to shout to be heard.
6 white horses come to take you home.
The land in northeastern Arkansas is flat, open, and honest. In the 1930s, the federal government built a planned farming community called Dyess. It was an experiment meant to give desperate families a chance to start over. The Cash family was one of them. They didn't arrive there to chase their dreams. They arrived there just trying to survive. In that place, the days were measured in chores and weather, by how high the sun climbed, by how much the ground would give, and by what a family could pull from a field and keep from a ledger. Music wasn't a luxury, it was relief. It was something you carried with you when you had nothing else to carry. Tommy Cash was born into that world as the youngest of the children, growing up in a house where responsibility came early and silence could mean a dozen different things. The Cash family didn't need to talk about hardship. It lived in the walls. And like many families touched by the Depression years, they learned to move forward even when something in them stayed behind. In Dyess, you learned early that talent wasn't enough. You needed stamina. For Tommy Cash, that stamina first showed up not on a stage, but on a basketball court. He threw himself into the game, earning local recognition as a standout athlete in school. The kind of kid who can make a gym feel smaller just by moving through it. In a town built on hard work, sports offered another language for ambition. But Dyess also had its limits. Like a lot of rural kids in mid-century America, Tommy grew up with the sense that life was happening somewhere else. Over the radio, down the highway, or past the fields. Music drifted in from that somewhere else, and in the Cash household, it wasn't just background noise. It was a lifeline. Tommy watched his older brother's world begin to widen, saw what it looked like when a person took the sounds of home and carried them out into the country. And even if the family didn't always say things directly, the message was clear. A last name can follow you like a shadow, but it can also open doors you didn't know existed. By his mid-teens, Tommy picked up a guitar and began learning the way so many country musicians did. Not from classrooms, but from simple repetition. And in high school, he formed his first band. Teenagers chasing a sound, playing whatever they could play, imagining an audience larger than the rooms they were actually in. But then came something different. After graduation, Tommy enlisted in the U.S. Army, and it's here that his story takes an unexpected turn. Not away from music, but deeper into it. He became a disc jockey for the Armed Forces Radio Network, broadcasting to other servicemen and women, voices scattered across bases and time zones, hungry for something familiar. There's a particular craft to radio. You learn pacing, you learn silence. You learn how to make a listener feel like you're speaking only to them. And for Tommy, those years weren't just service, they were training. When he eventually returned home, he didn't come back as a boy from Dyess anymore. He came back with time etched in his voice, experience, steadiness, and the first real sense that music might be more than just a pastime. But coming home also meant stepping into a new reality. By the mid-1960s, the Cash name carried a national echo. And in country music, an echo can be helpful or suffocating. Tommy didn't sprint straight into stardom. He moved the way working musicians move, one room at a time, one handshake at a time, learning the business from the inside. He played, traveled, and worked his way into the orbit of other performers, including early stage work alongside Hank Williams Jr., the son of another legend, who was also learning how to live inside a famous last name without being trapped by it. In 1965, Tommy landed his first recording contract, an official entry into the industry's long hallway of studios, producers, and promotion. In January of 1965, he recorded his first single for Music-Core Records, I Guess I'll Live. On paper, it's a simple title, but that's part of what makes it such a telling beginning. By 1963, Tommy Cash was no longer just a small-town musician. He was in Nashville, working a day job in the music publishing side of the business, where songs were treated like inventory. That publishing work mattered because it taught him how the industry actually functioned behind an artist's name. Around 1964, he even set up offices for JC Music and Southwind Music, companies connected to his brother's operation. But Tommy later said he quit because Johnny would sometimes tear up the office when no one was there. Tommy even recorded a song, I Didn't Walk the Line, referencing his relationship to his brother Johnny. A key move came a year later. Tommy joined United Artists Records, stepping into a larger label system with broader distribution. By 1968, he finally started knocking on the door of the national charts with The Sounds of Goodbye, which reached number 41 on Billboard's country chart. Close enough to taste the next level, and proof that his career was gaining traction. And soon after, Tommy made another important jump. He was on Epic Records by late 1969. Epic meant bigger infrastructure, more promotion, stronger distribution, and more pressure to deliver something that could break into the top 10. In 1969, Tommy Cash released Your Lovin' Takes the Leavin' Out of Me, which charted, but it wasn't the major leap they were looking for. But then came the record that defined his career. In 1969, Tommy recorded 6 White Horses, produced by Glenn Sutton for Epic. It was released in October 1969.
Go round, takes only one to gun you down. Goodbye, Martin.
Goodbye, Martin.
6 white horses come to take you home.
The song was explicitly tied to national tragedy, associated John F. Kennedy's murder, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr., and it landed at a time when those losses were still close enough to feel immediate for a lot of people. Commercially, it did exactly what Epic needed it to do. It became Tommy Cash's biggest hit and reached number 4 on Billboard's country chart, crossed over to the Hot 100, peaking at number 79, and it went all the way to number 1 on Canada's RPM country chart. That kind of performance on the charts changes how an artist is booked, marketed, and taken seriously in the industry. It's also the moment when the public stops treating the name Cash as a curiosity and starts treating Tommy as a proven hitmaker. In 1970, the follow-through was in motion. Tommy landed 2 more top 10 country singles that year, One Song Away and Rise and Shine. Rise and Shine is especially notable because it was written by Carl Perkins, a major name in early rockabilly and country rock circles. This connection mattered because it put Tommy Cash in a bigger network than just Johnny Cash's brother. It also gave radio a song with an obvious hook and a trusted writer behind it. Perkins' own biography notes that Tommy Cash's recording of Rise and Shine reached number 9 on Billboard's country chart. In early 1971, Epic treated Tommy Cash like a steady chart artist, which meant a familiar cycle. Pick the next single, get it into the magazines, ship it to radio, and keep him visible. The next single was So This Is Love in February 1971. Epic Records even put out a compilation, The Best of Tommy Cash, in 1972. A typical label move when an artist has enough recognizable singles to package and resell. Then 1973 brought the last major chart moment of his core hit period. Early in the year, Workin' on a Feeling charted, peaking at number 37. Later that year, he followed with She Met a Stranger, I Met a Train, which reached number 21 on the country chart. Another solid result, but a pattern was forming. The industry was changing, and staying near the top was getting harder as the country charts filled up with new sounds and new stars.
Here's my brother Tommy Cash.
Thank you very much.
All right. Hey, let's sing a Gene Autry song. Let's go way back to the 30s. All right, here we go. And dedicate this to our papa, who we lost a year or so ago. All right, silver-haired daddy of mine. Here we go.
In a vine-covered shack in the mountains, bravely fighting the battle of time, there's a dear one who's weathered life's sorrows. It's that silver-haired daddy of mine.
Off the charts, his personal life was changing too, and it had a direct effect on how steady the career could be. Tommy's first marriage began long before his biggest records. According to the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, he married Barbara Ann Weisenbecker on August 18, 1961, after meeting her while he was serving overseas, and they had 2 children together. But the marriage ended in divorce in 1975. During the fallout from that first marriage ending in divorce, Tommy, like his brother Johnny, reached out to evangelist Billy Graham for spiritual support. It opens an important window into who he was offstage, not a tabloid figure, but someone who leaned toward faith and private counsel when things fell apart. A few years later, Tommy remarried. His second marriage to Pamela Yvonne Dyer on March 12, 1978, also would eventually end in divorce. So while the public saw Tommy Cash as a continuing name on the country charts, the private life underneath it was going through major resets. By the late 1970s and into the 1980s, Tommy Cash wasn't chasing a comeback. He was doing what a lot of long-running country artists do, recording when the opportunities made sense, touring, and keeping his career active even as radio trends changed. He continued putting out albums through the 1980s and 1990s, well past his biggest charting era. In the early 1990s, he also took on work connected to the business side of country entertainment. In 1992, he was asked to help as a promoter for a proposed Johnny Cash Theater in Branson, Missouri, a venture that ultimately didn't happen because funding fell through.
Well, I taught the weeping willow how to cry, and I showed the clouds how to cover up a clear blue sky. And the tears I cried for that woman are gonna flood you, big river, and I'm gonna sit right here until I die.
As the Cash family story entered a new phase, Tommy's role shifted too. In the years after Johnny Cash's death in 2003, Tommy became one of the family members most visible in keeping the Cash story public. He released tribute-focused projects, including a 2004 album issued as a musical tribute, My Brother Johnny Cash, and later, Fade to Black, Memories of Johnny, in 2008, an album that mixed Tommy's own original material with Johnny Cash songs and included guest duets with George Jones and Marty Stewart. His personal life also stabilized in this later period. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas notes that Tommy married Marcy Benfield Cash in 2001, and they lived for many years in Hendersonville, Tennessee. Like many long-career musicians, Tommy also worked outside the recording studio. It's noted that he was a licensed real estate agent in Tennessee for a time, and he handled at least one high-profile transaction connected to the family's history. helping to sell the home of Johnny and June. He also helped in the development of the Johnny Cash Museum in Nashville. CEO Bill Miller described Tommy as a bright light and reflected on his support and friendship. Tommy Cash died on Friday, September 13th, 2024, at the age of 84. And it's noted that he passed away peacefully at his home. In the days after, major music outlets like Billboard magazine summarized his life the way the industry knew it. A longtime country artist, a great run of hits in the late 60s and early 70s, and a career that ultimately continued long after his peak chart years, while still being inevitably connected in the public mind to his older brother Johnny. Tommy Cash's story is the story of a working country musician who built a real career across decades, starting with early Nashville years and steady singles, breaking through with a great song like 6 White Horses, and then continuing to record, perform, and stay involved, even as radio trends moved on. He carried a famous last name and all of the pressure that goes with it, but he also earned his own place in the industry through persistence, professionalism, and longevity. Finishing his life in Tennessee, still connected to music, family, and the institutions preserving the Cash family history.
Some folks drink and some folks smoke. Some folks love and some folks don't. Some folks laugh and some folks frown. Some folks hear that it gun you down. Goodbye, John. 6 white horses come to take you home. Goodbye, John. They took you away before you sang your song.